Hey guys, welcome back to the Results Junkies podcast. We are talking about social influencers at your place of employment and what that means for business owners. We're also going to talk a little bit about Shock of Shocks AI, sort of a new development on Apple's decision to partner up with OpenAI and what that means in terms of their own oversight of the AI giant. Mr. Singh, how are you doing today?
I am good. Coming off of a super quick trip up to Chicago, quickly reminded of my disdain for business travel, mostly because of airport food options or lack thereof. But all good. How about you?
Good. And Tortoise Fronteras at Chicago O'Hare is really the only food option at that airport, just to be clear.
Yep. I had that for breakfast on Monday morning. And
yeah.
My obligatory sushi stop on Tuesday night.
Oh, you do like that sushi place. We actually you and I had Tortoise Fronteras there the last time we were there. Where were we going? Oh, we were going to South Dakota to see Matt Paulson, who we need to have back on the show.
That's right. That's right.
Need to do that.
He was actually in town last week, flexing his jet.
And I was replaced apparently momentarily. If you check out Twitter, you'll see my brief termination as co-host of the Results Junkies podcast.
I'm 99% confident the only reason Matt showed up was to take that photo and then give you a jab. That was probably like the $60,000 tweet or something. Who knows?
Yeah, well, yeah. At that price per hour to operate the jet. I get it. All right, let's dig in. So you sent an article that's actually probably more in my wheelhouse than yours. Oh, by the way, quick housekeeping because I forgot. show@resultsjunkies.com if you need to email us questions, comments, concerns. He is at Paul Singh on all the social media channels. I am at Pizza in Motion. All right, so you sent this article that will include the show notes about employees who post on social media about their employer. And the example in the article is a Chick-fil-a employee that posted about menu items at Chick-fil-a. And at some point along the way, she was posting videos for her followers, and a fairly substantial following, there's tens of thousands of followers. Chick-fil-A asked her to stop posting. Seemed like she was saying positive things about the brand, but they asked her to stop posting as a condition of her employment, which is pretty typical for employee handbooks in the retail world. I can certainly speak for our restaurants and say that's the case. I'm curious to hear your take on this and why you flagged it, and obviously happy to share, my feelings from my business side.
Yeah, well, of course, when I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm curious how Ed thinks about this coming from the restaurant space.
Yeah.
But on the other side of this, also, I was thinking about this from the perspective of, when we think about sort of the employees of big and small companies, whether it's Strata or Deloitte or whatever, it seems that like whether we like it or not, I'm not very articulate this morning, but here's the thing. It seems to me that the people that a lot of these companies are going to need to hire or promote or whatever, like are sitting on these platforms. And the point is that I don't know how to articulate this, but I think the point is that I'm surprised that there's not more thinking about how to engage your entire workforce in a positive way. I mean, I'm sure the risk people are like, wait, what if they post this or what if they post that? Those risks are there whether you like it or not. Those are already there. But it's like, so when I got this particular article, aside from texting it to you, I started Googling this just to see if there were other sort of case studies of companies that have done a great job activating their employees' social accounts. And I couldn't find much. I mean, I think there was maybe one article I found that maybe it was a Deloitte or Accenture, maybe, has a social media training guide that's talking about anyway. The point is, though, that if you can get past the risk, which frankly exists, whether you like it or not, the fact is, if you can get past that, I think there's something interesting about this idea of engaging your employees to talk more about the brand, or the company, but not in like some shady way. And I think there's some real value there, whether you use that for recruiting, sales, or culture. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sort of rambling, but it all started because I saw it and I was like, oh, restaurants. I wonder how Ed thinks about this.
Yeah. I mean, you noted that it's a complicated one, and I think it's different for different brands for sure, because some brands are more present on social media. Using Five Guys as an example, the brand's not very present on social media. We're just now getting to that phase of putting pictures of food out there on social media because the brand's been pretty reluctant to want to show people pictures of food. They don't want to mislead someone. So, hey, it looks so beautiful, and then you get it and it doesn't look beautiful. So I definitely understand Chick-fil-A's concern here. The same regulations are in our employee handbooks as well. I took a little deeper look into this woman's account, Miri the Siren, and interestingly enough, she's posted, I mean, it's not quite hundreds, but it's probably close to 100 videos about her time at Chick-fil-A. And, she got picked up, and the article talks about how she got picked up by other brands after Chick-fil-A told her to stop posting, because she posted a story saying, hey, Chick-fil-A corporate told me I can't post anymore. And her stories were getting, a decent number of views. Don't get me wrong, like low hundreds of thousands for most of her views on videos about Chick-fil-A. And then Chick-fil-A corporate tells her to stop. And now the views have gone up considerably. And I'm sure the older ones got more views after attention was shown on her account. So it's not 100% clear what the jump was, but there's clearly a jump in her traffic since the brand said, we really rather you didn't post about it. And I think, here's my personal opinion, and it's probably not a popular opinion. I think if it was the world according to Ed, if somebody knighted me and made me king of something like this, I think I would let employees post. I think I would encourage them to post positively. And if they started to post things that were damaging to the brand or factually inaccurate, then I'd have a difficult decision to make about whether or not I would ask them as part of their employment to not do this, or if I terminated their employment. And if it was in a state that was, that wasn't, an at-will employment state, if I could do that. And the thing is that not a lot, but there are a number of companies who have social media policies that are more nuanced and state that you're not allowed to disparage the brand. Like I can't come on and say, Five Guys has dirty floors, or my employer doesn't pay me enough, or things like that, or they use beef in the vegetarian salad. So I think I'd take more of that line and try to cut down on just the negative behavior than somebody than saying nobody can post.
So let me push back, because I'm kind of curious how you think about this. Where does that stop? So to your point about like, hey, it can't be damaging, it can't be, embarrassing to the brand, don't talk about our, intellectual property and all that stuff. First of all, most of that is covered in most companies' handbooks, right? NDAs and non-disparagements. So most of that's in there. But where does that stop? What if you one of your employees was just having dinner with their family and says, man, the company I work for sucks, and the way we do stuff sucks, and whatever. First of all, you can't police that. But second of all, is this line of thinking really just masking the true intent, which is social media can go viral, whereas a dinner conversation can't?
Well, I think that's absolutely true, and I think that's the risk in saying that you're going to allow employees to post positive things, because you don't know when it will cross over into something that's negative or misconstrued. I'll give you an example for Five Guys. They're very generous about what toppings they'll give, and in certain instances, you can have as much extra you want without being charged. So I could say I want extra bacon. Great, like I'll take 12 slices of bacon. Okay, well, and so somebody makes a video of that, and that goes viral, and then everybody wants 12 slices of bacon, and we can't have nice things. But I think at least from my standpoint, I think there has to be some understanding that, look, some percentage of people are going to abuse things, and some percentage of people are going to say things that are untrue. They're going to tell you that there's chicken in the Five Guys hamburger. They're going to tell you that there's beef in the Chick-fil-A chicken. And I think you just have to deal with those things as exceptions, because if you just make a blanket statement that you're not going to allow employees to post about their job or their food online, I think there's two problems here. There's the obvious, which is they do it anyway, and then you have to fire them, and it's ugly. Well, I guess there's three. There's that. The second is you never get this halo effect. Like, it looks like in the videos that I watched, this woman seemed genuinely happy. Even when she said she wasn't going to be able to do this anymore, seemed genuinely happy, was very knowledgeable about the food, and I thought very relatable too. Like, just I enjoyed watching her talk about whatever, the new, new flavor of drink that they had for a limited time offering. And, so, not my cup of tea, because I'm not a big TikTok person, but if it was on TikTok, I could see somebody going, oh, okay, like there's a, berry flavored tea this month. Like, let me go get some. I think the other problem is too that, this is going to sound a little bit more involved than people are looking for, but I truly believe that you create a company culture, but in the restaurant world, you're creating individual cultures in each restaurant, similar to maybe departments in a larger company. And just like good culture is contagious, so is bad culture. And so the wrong person in the mix can change a positive culture.
Sure.
And so I've got, 20, 25 employees in a store. I've got this person who's, really bright light, and she's out there posting and she's doing all these awesome things. And I tell her to stop. And then she's just like, all right, well, she's not that bright light in the store anymore, maybe. I'm not saying that for this woman from Chick-fil-A, to be clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I now turn that person, I could turn the entire mood of the entire staff. And then I could end up having to fire half of my team who go from slightly positive to slightly negative, and then I have to rebuild the team. And it's a big effort. And so I think in today's day and age, I think as business owners, I would rather allow my employees to be more expressive and police the exceptions than to have a blanket policy that says don't post about us.
Yeah. There's in many ways, I kind of think about this, like an analogy to this is the way I think about how other investors talk about term sheets. And I'll give you an example. People say things in the absolute. So they'll say, I never do a deal above this valuation, or they'll say, I never do a deal without that clause. So and you've said this before, anytime you use the words always or never, that's not a good idea. My general view on this is like it's a little more nuanced than that. I think the truth is you kind of have to be you have to start from a place of what are you really optimizing for. So for example, if you walk away from the term sheet, you have zero chance of ever getting any upside. If you decide to do the deal even though you're unhappy, you're probably going to be unhappy. But in the middle of those two, you can kind of be honest with yourself about what you're optimizing for, and then kind of decide if there's other ways to get what you're looking for. So and I'll use an example of the open source term sheets at 500. High valuations aren't the scary part of a particular term sheet. It's what happens to you when you have an early exit under that high valuation. So, okay, well, we're going to put a clause into that convertible debt that says maybe we get a right to veto it if it doesn't return 2x capital prior to the conversion. And that brings me back to this. I know it's nuanced, and I know, I definitely have no disagreement that you don't want your proprietary, processes out there. You don't want the embarrassing photo of the how the burger is getting cooked or whatever. And you certainly don't want like the false illusion of dirtiness because they took a picture of the griddle before they cleaned it. Of course, right? But in this particular case, it sort of seems like a missed opportunity because, by shutting it down, they probably lost a light, like you said there. This person was going to get views anyway. And on the other side, if they were just kind of honest about what they wanted, which is probably more media, more exposure, more all that, maybe they could have just like coached her. Maybe they could have, put some guardrails around it or whatever. But to absolutely shut it down, I think is a little bit short-sighted. And this is the thing I find it interesting is that I wonder if there's more to this story because Chick-fil-A's marketing style, I think, demonstrates a lot of leadership as opposed to management. I think they've taken a lot of big bets. I was reading the other day that their overall ad campaigns, where they have like the cow and they dress up the cow, and then there's some other ad campaigns where they have like a chicken sandwich, but it's got a little, head on it. But anyway, there were some analyst reports I was reading that, now chicken sandwich consumption is up 47% in most other restaurant lines as well. So it's like, man, these guys have shown a lot of leadership in terms of, doing advertising and marketing a slightly different way. But then this seems like a misstep, But I don't know. Anyway, it's interesting to hear your viewpoint too on this because I think as all of our I'm not in restaurants, we Strata does medical billing and provides an EMR and all that, but the only thing that we share in common is that our customer base is probably somewhat aligned. Physical therapists probably eat at Chick-fil-A. And, and patients. So the thing is, they're all skewing younger. And I think this is like the new world. It's like, this would be like, how do I say this? As much as you and I don't use TikTok that often, we're probably like the old people now or whatever. The thing is, like, we kind of have to look at where our customers' eyeballs are going and figure out what the strategy is going to be because hiding is not it. Squashing it is not it. So anyway, it's sort of a brave new world out there. And I guess now I know I'm going to go to Five Guys and try to, I don't know, capture a video of ordering 12 bacon slices and see if it goes viral.
Just don't do it. Just don't do it. It's already gone viral. All right, before we run out of time, let's talk a little bit about a new development on the Apple front when it comes to AI. and again, we'll include a link to this in the show notes, but essentially what we've got is, if you've ever watched any of the worldwide developer conferences or any of the Apple releases on their website, you've probably seen Phil Schiller, who's been with them for a million years and talks about their devices and stuff like that. And so he's been named to the board of OpenAI as an observer. Most folks will know what that means, but that means he gets to sit in on and be a part of their discussions and their deliberations. Doesn't get to vote, doesn't have a say in things, but should give at a very high level a sense of what the direction is for OpenAI, which I have to imagine was a pretty hard requirement for Apple in this deal. I'm curious what you thought.
This is probably a longer conversation, but I just thought this particular one's, what caught my eye here is that, OpenAI's largest investor is Microsoft, who has its own AI ambitions. And then you got on the other side, just imagine this board meeting. You got Microsoft in the corner, Microsoft sitting at the table and a bunch of other board members there, right? And then here you got Apple now sitting in the corner watching the whole thing happen. The whole thing just is very fascinating to me because I think it also kind of shows like how important this sort of revolution is. I know we don't have time today, but Mary Meeker, who is well known for putting out these wonderful reports, she's been kind of radio silent for 3 years, but she puts out these kind of analyses every year on certain topics. And one of the things she said in her latest interview and her latest report that just came out a couple days ago is that she believes that this general sort of progression of AI is, in her opinion, more profound than the invention of the transistor, the improvements of CPUs, all these other things. And the really pointed way she said it is, she said, it's almost as if the first 30 years of the internet was really just a stepping stone to get us to AI. So anyway, just back to this topic. I just thought it was very fascinating that this OpenAI board has seemingly got competitors of lots of different types sitting around the table. I just can't imagine like how they even talk to each other, given how all the NDAs they probably all have. But
it's
anyway,
worth noting too. This is the board that fired their CEO a handful of months ago, and the board is a mix of business folks and more pure technologists who have different philosophical views on things. So it's interesting to say that Apple's in the room. Don't have a vote, but obviously have huge input in that. If Apple says, if you do X, we're going to terminate our agreement, and this is where I'd love to see the full agreement now to understand what their termination rights are. But if you do X, we're going to pull you off the iPhone. They do have a de facto veto on a number of things. Maybe they don't have a vote, but they do have a de facto veto.
Well, I was going to say, they have some amount of implicit influence there. Even explicit would be a vote, but implicit is, hey, I just have to sit in the room and see what's going on. But the article specifically says that they want to learn how decisions are made, which I thought was interesting language in there. Point is, though, it seems like the stakes are super high.
Before OpenAI fired their CEO and rehired them a week later, this would have been necessary. After, it's like, well, yeah, of course Apple wants to be in the room, and I think, I know you're short on time right now, but hopefully next week we can get into this concept that YouTube is looking at in terms of how to deal with AI that's unwelcome, which I think is something that Apple being in that room with OpenAI and ChatGPT now is also going to be confronting.
Yeah. Yep. All right, my man. Well, I know we got to wrap up here, and you've got some big travel coming up, but we'll talk about that on the next episode, I think.
All right, Mr. Singh, you have a great rest of your day.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon. See ya.